In this video, I want to talk to you about 12 API concepts that every single engineer should know. And this is basically how a client talks to a server and everything that makes the conversation fast, safe, as well as reliable. To start with, we have the client and the server. So the client here, this could be a web browser. It could also be a server talking to another server. And on this side, you have the server itself, which is responsible for processing the information which the client has requested. So in this case, for example, the client sends a request to the server does all the processing, and then it returns the response. So in this case, we have a 200 OK with the payload with some data, right? So the server is actually stateless between calls. So it doesn't really remember any information about the client, okay? So then we also have the HTTP methods. So this is basically where if you want to, for example, get information from the server, you send the get HTTP request. So this is the HTTP method which is used. So it's safe and idempotent, and I'll talk to you what this means in a second, because usually this comes in interviews. Then we also have post. So post, this is used to create a new resource, and post is not idempotent. And I'll talk to you more about this. And then we have put and patch. So basically, put replaces, right? So you have to send the entire payload, whereas the patch, literally you send what you want to modify, okay? And then also we have the delete method in here, which means remove. So maybe you want to, delete a user or delete an order by a given ID. Okay, and you can see that. So here / orders, and this actually is the resource. Okay, so we also have status codes. So status code really, so these are 3 digits that tell the client what happens, and basically you have 200x in here, or 2xx. So these are successful. So basically the request worked. So we have 200, which is okay, 201, 204. We also have 300s in here, so 301, 304, which basically redirect. We also have 400, so these are client errors. So the request went wrong, and basically something wrong with the client. And then we also have server errors in here, which means that there's something wrong with the server and is nothing to do with you. Okay, so you have to make sure that you know exactly how to use these, because it's very important. And often I see people just using 200s all over the shop, where they actually need to know if they are sending a post request and something is created on the server, then it makes sense for you to send a 201 instead of a 200. And again, same with 400s, 401, 403, 404, 429, which is like many requests. So you need to understand and learn these status codes, because often they come in interviews. Cool. So then we have REST. So REST here is not really a protocol, but is a set of constraints, and basically allows you to model everything as resources and act on them with HTTP verbs to keep every request self-contained. So we have the resource itself. So these should be nouns and not verbs. So in this case, / orders, and then 42, for example. And it's also a uniform interface. So same verbs everywhere. So get, post, put, delete, patch. So you should see this. It doesn't really matter if you're using Java, Python, Ruby, whatever language they're using these days, C#, whatever, right? So you should see them everywhere. And also stateless. So this means that every request carries its own context. So very, very important. And then also we have the representations, right? So JSON over the wire and not the object. Now let's look at how the request looks like. So you have the request in here, which usually if you open your web browser, for example, and then inspect the requests, so you should see the HTTP method in here. So in this case, post. This is the resource / v1, and then orders question mark. This is what's known as query params, and then this is the HTTP version in here. Also, what is sent with every single request are headers in here. So authorization, maybe better using JWT. the content type, and then idempotency key. So this is not really something that you should be sending unless you're implementing idempotency, which I'll talk to you in a second. But basically, headers in here contains metadata about the request, so very important. And then we have the body, the payload, which is sent to the server, right? So usually you see these within post, put, as well as patch. Cool. Then we also have authorization versus authentication in here, so very important. So authentication proves who you are, and then authorization decides what you are allowed to do with the API. So the easiest way to think about this is if you have, for example, a badge and you go to work, so you are able to enter to the main building, but then if you want to access, for example, the security room, unless you are a security or part of the security team, then you should be able to enter the room. Otherwise, you should be denied. Okay, so that's basically what it means. So usually the client in here sends the request, and we have, you know, maybe an API gateway, or this could even be, you know, a normal server or an endpoint. And basically it does two things, right? So you have the authorization. So the authorization, this could be like a token which is sent to the server, and then it validates the token. If the token is valid, then the authorization in here says, does it have the scope, i.e. is it allowed to perform the action on a particular resource? So if it is allowed, then basically you can return allowed and then has scope with a 200, maybe a different status code. Or if rejected, then you say denied, and then something went wrong. Okay, and here you can see the right uses of the appropriate status codes. We also have rate limiting, so very important. And actually this came during an interview for one of my students in the academy. So what it is basically, so this allows you to cap how many requests a client can make in a window. Okay, so you as a client, you can send maybe n requests per second. Okay, and usually the way that this is done is, if there's a flood of requests to the server, we implement a rate limiter. And this guy basically says, right, so if you are sending 100 requests within a minute, then you are allowed to, you know, carry on whatever you're doing. As soon as you send more than 100 requests per minute, then you basically get a 429, and then you have the retry-after, which then basically the client then has to implement some kind of back-off strategies or retry strategies, right? We also have pagination, so very, very important. So here you never return a million rows. So say, for example, you say, give me all the orders from your database. So you don't want to return 1 million rows. That's just not going to work, because, you know, one, you're going to fill up the memory, and it doesn't work. Okay, so usually what you do is you want to use pagination, and you limit the amount of data which the client can see, right? So think about it. The client really shouldn't be consuming a million rows. Okay, so what you do is you return a simple page, and then the client can decide which page it wants to jump to. And basically we have a cursor as well, which allows us to retrieve data after a particular item in your database. So cursor is a default for infinite scroll and large changing data sets. We also have caching. So usually you shouldn't really recompute what hasn't changed. Okay, so let clients and CDNs reuse responses. So the client, if it sends a request in here for maybe, I don't know, a resource or something which it needs, so you look at the cache, and if there's a hit, then you serve from the cache. Otherwise, you go and fetch from the origin, and then you cache that, so that subsequent requests, they are much faster, and you don't have to recompute. We also have versioning. So versioning, very important. So this lets you ship new breaking behavior without pulling the rug out of existing clients. So you can imagine that you have all clients, for example, using API and then v1/orders. So this maybe you shipped, some time ago, and the new clients in here, so allows you to basically have a new version of the API whilst you keep the old version backwards compatible, and then you can use like deprecated, and then usually you can phase out or migrate the old clients by maybe blocking the app and say like you need to upgrade now to the latest version. And you've seen this time and time again in mobile apps. I think mobile apps is probably where you see this the most. And you can see here deprecation as well, and then you have the URL, which is basically how you can specify the versioning, or you can also add the versioning within the HTTP header. Also, we have idempotency in here, so the same request sent twice should take effect only once. Okay, so think about it, right? So if you are buying an item from a website and you send the same request twice by mistake, you don't want to charge that customer twice. Okay, so what you do is you implement idempotency. Okay, so here you might use an idempotency key. So this is how Stripe does it actually. So you basically send the request along with this key. The first instance, the client gets charged, and then if the client tries to send the same request again, then it should have no side effects. Okay, so you only charge once. And then finally, I want to talk to you about Webhooks, which is very interesting and one that you should really know. So instead of asking for any news on a loop, you basically register a URL and let the API call you when something happens. And if you've done anything with Stripe, so this is basically how it works. So basically, instead of you polling each time, I've done something and now I'm expecting a response. Have you done? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? But instead, what you do is you register a callback URL, and then whenever the server on the other side finishes whatever it needs to do, or whatever updates, or in this case are events, then it basically sends you all the updates to your server, and then you can process the information. Cool. This is pretty much it. And again, so these really come up in interviews these days, and especially if you're doing interviews or applying for roles. We need to know about these things. And actually, the reason why I'm recording this video is that one of my students within the academy, he had an interview where he was asked some of these questions. That's why I recorded this video. If you enjoyed this video, smash the like button, and let me know what you want to see next. So for now, I'll see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.